It's your weekly main episode of Corner Späti. It's Ciarán, and I'm joined by Uma.
Hi.
Yeah! We need to come up with like a team name for when it's just the two of us.
The Catholics.
The Catholic. Nick would feel offended if the Catholics was
Nick,
not including
True.
We'll come up with something.
But yeah, now we're just staring off into the distance, thinking, trying to the Buachili.
Yeah. Because we just recorded the bonus episode that you might have heard, and it was a lot of Spanish chat, and we were joking about how when we usually get together, it's a lot of Irish chat. And then you're like, oh yeah, we get together, and then you went and made tea, and it was very nice. But then I was just thinking, I just kept thinking of like, when was there like a Spanish-Irish link-up, and all I could think of was like Owen O'Duffy or whatever.
Oh
God,
the
Irish fascist
the
leader.
fascists.
Yeah.
That is not our name. That is not our group name.
It's the O'Duffy.
It's Fine Gael.
Yeah, it's Fine Gael in the 40s.
The blue shirts, actually.
Yeah, it's the blue shirts.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm wearing blue.
Oh no,
you're not.
When did I get it? I'm
no, you're not. You're combining in a very nice.
It's important that you realize that as like a straight man who never puts any effort into his appearance, I don't know what I'm wearing until I look down.
He did look very surprised when he looked down too.
Oh, I'm still wearing this.
It's a nice outfit.
The t-shirt's
though.
red. Okay. I'm very sleepy dad. I don't know. As long as I'm not naked, the job's been done.
I think you would notice with how fucking cold it is.
People and how they react, probably.
Well, they're people Germans. They're weird.
Yeah,
they're like weirdly okay with nudity.
Oh yeah. You were talking about your lovely apartment, and you were like saying that you've got a lot of nice windows and stuff, and you have to be careful when you're showering. It's like, I long abandoned that shame. There's like, if the Germans look in and see me naked, it's like, well, I saw you naked already when I looked into your apartment. So.
No, to be fair, I also don't really care. It's just like, it is what it is. If you're looking into my place, it's your fault for looking. Like, if you see something you don't like, it's not my fucking fault. But it's just like, everyone here is old. So yeah. But most of them are female, so if I feel they probably are happier when they see my boyfriend, who does like walk around naked. Yeah. No, he doesn't care either. Yeah. But right in front, it's like a Turkish family, so I don't know how they would feel.
Well, your attitudes are about this. Yeah. Has light culture taken over? But like the nudity thing isn't even light culture, is it? Because it's like the Vessies hate it or whatever. It's the East Germans who are like nudity is cool people or whatever.
I think it's kind of refreshing though how they don't care, because as a person from the South, you look at the people from the North like, oh, they're all so tight. Like there's also like. If you're topless at a beach, they will spit at you or something.
People in Northern Europe, they love queuing for all the things they do, office jobs, public transport,
being naked.
They love queuing to get naked. They just love it.
Yeah.
I have a video to show. I have two videos. We're building a catalog of things I have to show.
I'm excited.
I need like a pen and paper to like
to write this down.
Because as soon as I'm done recording, I'm like, I was gonna show something new, and I've fucking forgotten. I've forgotten everything. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah. So this is the first time me on the mic since I did Ciarán 2 Electric Boogaloo. I photoshopped some fucking anti-volt posters.
Oh yes.
Which so hey, if you made the effort to listen to the podcast, congratulations. They are photoshopped. A lot of people didn't realize that, and I usually when this happens, I've done this before. If you didn't know that, I don't usually tell people that they've been photoshopped, because the first time I did this, the Volt people tried to find the posters and take them down.
Oh, that's so funny. And they just take down an Späti poster thinking that it's the Corner Späti.
Also, I find
hilarious.
It does warm my soul that I can still You know, I feel like a young man in college. I can still whip open Photoshop and still
and troll people. Yeah,
Photoshop with the best of them. Everyone thinks they're real. My graphic design degree.
You made it.
Yeah, my graphic design degree. It's used for this dumb thing. Yeah, so I made some new Volt posters, and it's very funny. But we were talking about it because like I made these, I photoshopped them. It took a long time to make them well, and I also had a small street team who went out and took photos for me.
Street photographers.
I'm calling the street team because Volt is not putting any posters in the poorer parts of Berlin. And I live in one of those parts, and I genuinely thought they weren't running, until I mentioned that, and then like Nick was like, no, there's like some like I've seen on the way to work and things like that. I was like, oh shit, and then I started noticing them around the place, and there's none here on the way to visit Uma as well. I didn't notice there wasn't any around.
Yep.
But Jesus,
you know you live in a working class neighborhood when you don't see any Volt posters.
Yeah, they've not tried it. It's so fucking funny. Yeah, but I photoshopped these and I posted them into the group chat first, being like, I'm going to upload these. And we were talking about how Nick was a little bit like, ugh, because last time we did this, we got a lot of replies from Volt people, and there was a lot of like long drawn out arguments with Volt people because they're hilarious, and they have this thing. They have like the perfect Twitter lib German kind of brain poisoning, which is one, they kind of really do believe in the like battle of facts, kind of like West Wing thing. If they just say the right thing, then I will like cower and retreat.
Yeah. If it sounds like factual and serious, you will be like, oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. A thing that happened in the West Wing and never happens in real life.
Yeah, exactly.
And the other side of it is they always just think that they can have the like last word, and always love to have the last word. This will happen with like German people responding to you on Twitter and stuff, even when they're like agreeing with you, and it just has to drop the conversation at a certain point. But anyway, you're very annoying is the point I was getting at. And it's very funny that they did not engage with us this time, but I did notice they did another time, because some green retweeted it, quote retweeted it. Mm-hmm. And she was complaining that we didn't tie the posters correctly.
Yes,
that's also very German.
No, the German replies were so, I'm sorry, I know I live in Germany, but they were so fucking annoying. Like also saying like, oh, why is it in English? It's like,
they're not real.
Because it's Photoshop.
I wanted to give like, yes, it's Photoshop, they're not real.
Oh my god.
But also like the FDP has done in language German like in the September 2021 elections. They had the very famously bad English make in Germany.
Oh god.
For like they wanted to do a made in Germany campaign, but they don't understand that's like a fixed phrase. You can't just like, even though it is about the future or present, you can't change the made to make.
Yeah.
That's yeah. Rob always had a theory about this, that like, you know, German companies, German political parties, blah, 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 they'll always be like, all right, we need a French translator, we need a Spanish translator, we need a Greek translator, we need an English translation. Cracks knuckles, let me do like,
Google Translate, baby.
Germans are just like a little overly confident in their English ability.
That's that's changing topics, but I have seen so many bad graffitis in English.
Yeah.
And my favorite thing is when that graffiti, like someone else has corrected it.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what, but like just like the verb is off. Like
the really quite tragic one was George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter protests.
Oh god, yeah, I saw that.
You would get a lot in Germany of "I can't breath."
Yep.
Yeah. Because the silent E at the end of English words confuses Germans, and also the German word for breath and breathe is the same, isn't it? It's like atom. It's atom.
Atman, yeah.
Both times. So I understand that confusion, but
it's like but you know,
you're not Swedish. Your English isn't as good as you think. To all the Germans out there, I love you, but no.
Oh my god! And most of the people that listen to us are German, and we're like, "You Germans are so fucking
They love
annoying."
it. You fucking hogs love it.
They're into BDSM.
Oh yeah, well this was the thing we did like early quarter Späti when we realized we had a lot of Dutch listeners and all we'd been doing is just insulting the Netherlands. And it was
How do you say swamp Germany?
Yeah, swamp German. Yeah, have you never heard that before?
Yeah, no, I heard you say it, and I was like, "What is?"
But
that?
it is like we didn't invent it.
Okay.
Like, this is what I need to stress.
I would believe it if you said, "Oh, I invented this." I was like, I would be like, "Yep."
Yeah, sick.
seems a Ciarán thing, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I love the differences between the Dutch and the Germans. I love how they think each other sound. My understanding is, I think I've said this before, the Germans think Dutch people kind of sound like goofy and rural, and then like yeah, and then but the Dutch, whenever they hear German, it sounds like they're watching like a Dutch film set in the 1800s. It sounds like a period piece.
Okay,
like it's archaic and so like I think there's more to it than that, but that's the brief explanation to begin. Anyway,
back to the vault.
So like a green person kind of like complained about it not being tied, and I'm like, cool. I photoshopped a Die Linke, an SPD, a Greens, and a CDU poster. I did a lot of big gamut there. So they're not tying their posters. Yeah, they're not tying. The Die Linke ones were good because their posters are mostly white. It's easier to Photoshop. But there was a guy in the comments there who is like he's like head of communications for Volt Baden-Württemberg. Because of course
such a random place.
The fucked state, the absolutely fucked German state, Baden-Württemberg. Yeah, because he was complaining about us, like he was like did not respond to the whole ties thing, like not being tied properly. It was just like, oh, this fucking podcast again, and I'm like, lol.
Yeah. True.
And I'm just like, and then I realized because I've been asked to write an article about Volt, and I'm going to do it eventually, or whatever. And I do have like a Google Drive folder of like a bunch of things saved of like other people writing about Volt, or like observations I've had or points I've made in the past and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And one of them is a link to a very lengthy argument that me and Nick had with this exact same person like 2 years ago.
Oh my god.
And
you're living rent free in his mind.
He's still going at it. Yeah, absolutely. It's hilarious. I mean, I'm not going to do the whole we're living rent free in his mind, because I'm making this point in the article. I'm a man obsessed.
Well, yeah, fair enough. We did Photoshop. Well, you did Photoshop.
Yeah. I think the best response that I gave to people complaining about it being in English did kind of point out that like everyone who likes Volt can speak English, definitely, because they're a very middle class party. Everyone who dislikes Volt can speak English because they're probably middle class or immigrants, like EU immigrants.
Yeah.
And then everyone else who may be more likely to not speak English do not know or care what Volt is.
Yeah.
And that is the bulk of the population.
Yeah.
And they're the happiest and mentally healthiest of us all. Like
100%.
They don't read the news daily like I do. They're like into like cars or football or dressing like a cat girl or whatever, like just normal things that the population does. They don't have like a subscription to the Financial Times. They haven't fucked themselves like I have.
You have a subscription to the Financial Times?
No, I can't afford that. I have a thing that gets past the Financial Times.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I was like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
But also, I do know all the like Brussels bubbles papers, and I read them regularly enough, and they're insane.
Oh, Jesus.
I do. Yeah, they're insane. This is no getting around it. Like, you can live your entire life in Brussels and just completely ignore the European quarter. It's funny how small that is, and they all just want it to be Washington, D.C.
Yeah. God. Ugh. I do know people who work at the European Parliament.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
Oh, I did find out about something very Brussels bubbly, but I still want to go. It's not in Brussels, actually. It's in Strasbourg, where the Parliament is meant to be sometimes. There is a museum of things that have been given as gifts to like members of the commission, MEPs and stuff like that.
What?
That they shouldn't have been given.
Oh.
So it gets put in the museum.
Are you serious?
Yeah. I want to go to that so bad.
Yeah. That sounds kind of cool, actually. Like, what do people come up with? Like, what do people...
I talked to a friend of mine who's in Strasbourg, and one of the things she did mention was that she knows is in there is a flag that's been on the moon.
What the fuck? It's so cool.
Yeah.
And they couldn't keep that?
Yeah.
Why not?
It's like, because like there's like rules about like, you know, receiving gifts when you're in like government and things like that.
Yeah, but it's not alcohol. Like, it's a fucking flag that was on the moon. That's
like
so cool.
like is anything you could like argue could curry favor or whatever, and it's corruption or whatever. Like, they still do this.
Was it like a EU flag or like a USA or?
They didn't say. I don't think there's ever been an EU flag on the moon.
No, I don't know. I just made it up. I just wanted to know what kind of flag.
I think like you give me any flag that's been on the moon, and I'm just like, whoa.
Well, yeah, I don't care if it's like the worst country in the world.
Rhodesian. Yeah, the Rhodesians in a space program. Fucking imagine.
The Francoist flag. Carrero Blanco put it there.
The Rhodesians going to the Rhodesian astronaut suit is still just like astronauts, but they're wearing those little short shorts that their soldiers wore.
Oh my god, don't even. What a silly uniform.
Yeah, but they all have names like Leopold de Klomp, whatever a Rhodesian name was, a white Rhodesian name.
Wow, no idea.
You just have to be named after someone who did.
Everyone's just called Leopold.
Yeah, we really like King Leopold over here.
Yeah. Leopold did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
He was being cancelled by the woke.
Yeah, the woke Congolese.
The Antifa. Did you see, what's his name? Carlson Tucker? That Fox guy.
Yeah.
Yes. He was like, Antifa are the armed forces of the Democratic Party and they must be stopped. Like,
we like,
what? And that was like yesterday. It's like, I thought we were over this.
We really do need to go back to the era of every political party having an armed wing, though. Like,
oh, that would be... Oh.
Just do that. Bring it back.
Yeah. What could go wrong?
What could go wrong? I'm sure history has nothing to say about this.
I'm a historian and I approve.
You
I
understand
see nothing wrong
that,
with this.
I say we should bring this back because I would, in my infinite wisdom, would definitely be a part of the militia that is good and will be remembered fondly by history.
Yeah, exactly.
It's something I will definitely know in the moment.
Hey, winners write the history books. So.
Exactly. So you just shoot the hardest.
Just win. Yeah, just fucking win.
Have you tried winning? Have you fucking tried winning? So we're becoming like a male influencer like podcast all of a sudden.
Have you tried getting a Lamborghini?
Have you tried winning? You and your political militia for the party of... For like Ciudadanos or whatever, the militia wing of like Ciudadanos. Needs to get a fucking Lamborghini. Also, water is poison. Drink only whiskey.
Water makes you gay.
Water makes you gay.
We don't want to be gay.
Yeah.
It turns what did Joe Rogan say? It turns the frogs gay.
Oh no, that was Alex Jones.
Oh, Alex.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I just confused them all. They're just the fucking same.
They're very much the same height and skin tone. Very red, the two of them.
They're built the same, no? Like they're just like squares, like little.
They are squares, but Joe Rogan is square brackets muscle. Alex Jones
is fat.
Yeah. Alex Jones is square brackets muscle with fat on top.
Yeah, have you seen that? I'm just like being like, have you seen that clip of Miley Cyrus at Joe Rogan's podcast?
No,
it's I don't know why the fuck
Miley's been on it.
Maybe she was like doing publicity for like her new album.
Probably,
I have no idea.
Yeah, sure.
It was kind of recently, but like they talked about drag queens.
Oh, yeah.
They showed a clip of like some drag queen, I don't know, and Miley was like, "Oh yes, I fucking love her. She's so great." And Joe Rogan was like, "Oh, but they all do the same. Like they all do the same kind of moves and whatever." And she just turns to him and goes like, "That's so funny. That's what I think when I hear your show."
I put
like,
my hands
up.
It's the song.
And that is literally me. Like, I just confuse all these people because for me, it's just the same fucking...
Just yelling.
I don't understand. A full-blown investigation has to be launched as to why Miley Cyrus went to the fucking Joe Rogan podcast show or whatever.
What fucking PR guy did this?
It's such a random combination.
The tones of the two. I agree that I can see why you're confusing the two, because like they definitely have that like that same like reddish white guy pigment. That's also kind of tanned because they live in warmer parts of the country.
Yeah, and it just yell into their mic.
So this is the thing. Like,
no, that's Alex Jones.
Alex
right?
yells. Yeah. Joe doesn't. Joe is just like...
Joe is just dumb as hell, isn't he?
Yeah, it's just like, that's crazy. That's crazy. Mikey, pull that up. It's like very...
True. Yeah. That's correct.
But yeah, Alex Jones is just like... True.
Yeah, he's the meme. He's mostly the meme because he's always yelling. Right, okay, yes, I'm being educated.
There's a death metal band that Nick really likes that just takes audio clips
he played that to me.
Of course he has. You've known Nick for more than 5 minutes. Of course he's played that to you.
He... who's the other one? Oh, Jordan B. Peterson. But he just cries into the mic.
And he also sounds like Kermit the Frog.
Oh my God, he does.
Yeah, like you can just do.
He does. See, that's how Franco sounded, kind of.
Yeah, that's
like he was choking all the time.
It's the really weird thing of like Kermit the Frog is so big, and like everything that Jim Henson has created is so big that you kind of forget that like Jim Henson was pulling from real life. Like he knew people who sounded like this. That this is like an accent that can happen in the States.
Yeah.
But it just stopped because Kermit became so big, and everyone who sounded like that were just like, "Yo, cut that shit."
We need to
It's like a fucking
evolve or something.
Yeah, because you can just do like I see these boys with tears in their eyes, and
that's exactly how Franco sounded. No, like I'm not kidding. Like
I don't have God, I don't have enough knowledge of Franco to do the successful, like, to do the bit justice of Jordan B. Peterson Franco, Jordan B. Franco, I guess, or whatever, Francoson. Hang on.
Wait. Como en otras épocas. This just sounds like... See, the thing is, because it's like old... film, like old mic, it sounds lower than it actually was.
Right.
Like if you read about how he was and how he spoke, it was just like very high and like like da-da. But here he's also doing a speech, so he's trying to be more manly or whatever. But
like the thing is, like every time we would get something from Franco, it would be dubbed. As well as the other side, you'd have like...
Oh, yeah.
Because this is the same thing that like Milo from Trash Future always says about like Putin, is like most people who interact with Putin always hear him like with the English dub over it, and they don't realize that like his voice most of the time is just like, maybe that point is fine. And it's just like, it's very like boring.
Oh, yeah, Milo speaks Russian, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like also, that's just with everything. If you're not from an English, like from a country that speaks that, like
it's hard to know the differences. Like,
and how people actually sound. And
I've been watching a lot of anime, and this is very important. But I've been watching a lot of anime, and like, so I got Crunchyroll, which feels like is a mistake I'm going to regret at some point. But I'm watching a lot of anime. And it's one of the things that I definitely missed from that era of like dubbing or like subtitles that were done online, like fan subtitles, is that they would always put little like cliff notes and like explainers in like brackets somewhere.
Yeah.
Of like, they'll translate what they're saying, but then like in the corner is like they're doing
they're talking about this thing.
Well, no, it's like at this point they're doing an accent, like they're doing like they're doing like a Japanese country accent, and you'll just be there like listening to the audio being like, I have noticed no difference at all, because like it's hard to know when you don't speak the language the like when these things can get different.
No, that's the thing with Spanish dubbing with because we dub everything, absolutely everything. So now that I watch everything in its original version, you just notice. So it's so annoying because all these nuances, all these like, changing your accent to make fun of someone, or this character is explicitly British and their whole fucking personality is that they're British in an American movie. You don't get that in always in the Spanish version, because like they all have fucking Madrid accents.
Yeah.
You know? So if they make a reference to one character being British, you're like, okay, like whatever, because you don't hear the difference. Yeah.
And then there'll be like, and there'll be so many like assumptions about the character that you're meant to get just by immediately knowing that they have a different accent.
Exactly. Yeah. Or like, I don't know, if there's like a scene of this person trying to, pronouncing something, but the others don't understand him because he's British. How do you do that in Spanish? Like, you just get a very weird scene.
Yeah.
And everyone's just like, okay, what happened? Whatever. Like,
the only time I have ever noticed it, because you get it a lot in you do get a lot with anime, where if you're watching subtitled, there'll be a bunch of like regional assumptions about the characters that you would know as a Japanese speaker, but you don't know when you're not.
Exactly.
And then there'll always be dubs that are like, oh, this person is from like Okinawa, so we've given them like a Southern Belle accent from America, and you're just like, okay.
Oh,
and
that is a bold choice.
It's a bold choice, and I'm sure that maybe works, kinda, but then the only time I've ever like noticed it before is there's a great show, it's on Netflix, called A Very Secret Service, and it's it's about the French Secret Service in the 60s, and it's just a very good satire and stuff like that. And the one great line in the beginning of the show is like, when the guys join the Secret Service, he's like being interrogated about like all these questions to try and get in, and he's just like, and one of the questions is, who won World War II? And he goes, France, and clearly about to say the others. Yeah. And before he can say the others, he just guy goes, correct.
That is, that's how French people see it.
But they do have a whole scene, a whole episode where they're talking with the CIA. But they're speaking, they got people to like speak French because it's a French made show, blah, blah, blah. But like they do the American speaking French accent beautifully, and so obviously, like, even that I could pick up on it. It's just like like literally like saying beaucoup, beaucoup and things like that. Oh my god.
Yeah. See, that's good. Like recently I was watching, when I was back home, we were watching this movie from the 1950s or 40s or something like that, and it was dubbed in Spanish. Right, and we were just watching it, and then suddenly it's in American and like in English with subtitles for like 3 minutes, and then it goes back to being dubbed, and I was like, what the hell was that? It's because of censorship, because it was censored because it was the 40s and 50s.
Okay.
That was Franco time.
Yeah.
So literally the scene that was censored was like her saying how she was raped.
Shit.
And like how she like wanted to have sexual relationships and stuff like that. Yeah. And obviously that in a Catholic Franco.
No, never happens. No one has sex.
Yeah, no one has sex.
Whether she said yes or not, no one has sex.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So like I remember my parents and I were like, what the fuck just happened? And then my dad was like, yeah, of course. Like,
so they just only, so the uncensored version that now exists just puts in the undubbed scene. Because the dubbing actors or whatever it's called. Yeah, they're dead. They're dead. So like now they just have to, if you don't want it to sound super weird and suddenly modern for like 3 minutes, you have to just put the actual film with like subtitles. But it's such a weird like thing. You're just like, whoa, what the fuck what happened here?
Just happened there? Like, especially if you don't speak English, you're like, huh? Like, what is this?
Who are these people? This film is clearly set in Madrid.
But exactly.
Empire State Building in the background.
But yeah, my dad would tell me how like they would censor so much in certain movies that like when he watched it uncensored, he was like, what is going on? Because they would just completely change the the story because they had censored so much, or they just would make the characters say something that they weren't saying in the original,
right?
Just to, change the fact that that this character maybe was having sex or maybe was in love with like a person of color or like whatever, these things that you didn't want.
There was a Muslim character. He's gone.
He was completely cut off.
Or he just keeps coming in being like, "I'll love Jesus."
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna convert to Catholicism. Hell yeah.
My name's Mo. It's not short for anything. Don't think about it.
Exactly.
Anyway, all of this is to say that we have an interview.
It has nothing to do with
nothing to do with it at all. We have an interview now lined up with Avik and Sasha from Lützerath Lebt, and I'm going to cut to that now. Take it away, Ciarán from the past. Hey, I'm joined by Avik and Sasha in the first take of this introduction from Lützerath Lebt. And we're going to be talking about, as everyone could guess, Lützerath, the top tourist destination in West Germany right now. Everyone's coming to visit. Just coal everywhere on the ground. Pick it up. Use it as a paperweight. Do whatever you want with it. Don't burn it. That's all we ask, please. But... so obviously anyone paying attention to the news, and also our last episode, we talked a little bit about what's happening in Lützerath. I'm still very proud that I'm pronouncing Lützerath correctly, and I think we want to go into a little bit more detail. So very good listening to the show. Flo put us in touch with some people actually on the ground. So I guess my first question to the both of you is, what's going on? What is any of this?
As in what's going on right now after the whole...
I'd say no, the context. What is happening in Lützerath? Why are protesters even there to begin with? Why have the cops come along? For anyone who didn't catch the last episode and needs the wider context.
So basically Lützerath is a village in North Rhine-Westphalia, which is a state in Western Germany, and there's a lot of coal. There's like one of the biggest coal mines in Europe, and in this part of the world is Gasweiler 1 and Gasweiler 2. These two in itself have a huge carbon emission. They consist of lignite, which is in German called brown coal. Lignite is the most polluting fossil fuel out there. And Germany, which has already enough carbon emissions, has decided to keep burning this because of whatever reason. And there's so much going on here. There is also like the whole... this is an agricultural land. It's very rich, alluvial soil. And there was a farmer here who became pretty famous called Eckhard Neukamp. Mm-hmm. And Eckhard was the last farmer of Lützerath. And there are quite a lot of interviews of Eckhard going on screen and talking about how important it is to keep the soil because of how good the soil is and how many livelihoods it sustains. And recently there was a German election where the Greens came into party with the SPD, which is it's a green-black coalition in the state.
It's the CDU.
CDU, yes. Yeah. And the Christians Democratic Union.
Yes.
And they came into power in the state, and the people who voted for the Greens are, again, I mean, the Greens no longer are what they started off as, which was this kind of leftist, environmentalist party, and now they don't have any of those traits. So the people who did vote for them are a bit frustrated about what they have done, which is have a deal behind closed doors with the RWA, which is the company which owns these two big gas mines, Gasweilers. These not these gas mines, but these like coal mine pits.
Right.
And so recently the police decided to drop by and evict a bunch of activists who were squatting this village very successfully. they had created. I mean, it wasn't just about the coal, because these people have been here for 2-3 years, and they had built a community. They had built tree houses. They had made it an alternative, sustainable form of living, where not just climate activists, but no border activists and other activists would come here and um, try to have a vacation while also doing some activism. Because I don't think most activists get any kind of vacation. You want to add something to that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's pretty much that. It's like a village that has two main points. Like, the one is to show concretely that the coal underneath, and we are not talking about a bit of coal, we're talking about over 280 million tons of coal. I don't know if you can imagine that, but it's greatest amount. Like, the whole mine has 30 square kilometers, so it's like a really, really huge hole in the middle of Northern Westphalia, and they want to burn all that coal, even though we know that it's not in alignment with the 1.5 degree. So if we do not want to burn further carbon emission and be responsible for even more sorrow and even more misery and death especially in the global south, but also like around here, then it's impossible for us to allow people to actually burn this coal and to allow profits to go over people's livelihoods and lives. And the other thing is that there was actually a utopia built, as Avik already said. So I think, and we can see that also, that people from all over the world, we got so much solidarity. And yeah, that's basically the place as it used to be.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about the international solidarity stuff towards the end. But the sheer scope of what is actually happening, I think, is hard for a lot of people to grasp. I think most people outside of Germany learned about Lützerath because of the photos of the police basically in front of the giant mining equipment, and people thought a lot of people's first reactions was like, "Oh, this is some cool art from a video game that's coming out, right? This isn't real." Yeah. The size of this, comprehending 2 million tons is not something I think anyone can actually do until they've seen it. Okay, so that's a very good summary of what's been happening here, and thank you very much for that. The first thing I kind of want to talk about is because I think a lot of people who have seen a little bit of footage and stuff are a bit interesting, but what kind of structures and forms of protest have people in Lützerath actually been doing? I think a lot of people have seen the stilts, you mentioned already the tree houses, the kind of squatting in existing buildings. Is there anything else that people should know about, or can you describe a little bit what's going on?
There is civil disobedience at the basic level. We had people come in here from France, where it's much, I guess, police violence is much worse and escalation on both sides is very high. And these people would they were part of the demonstration that happened on the Saturday, the 14th, and these they were impressed by the way that how strong people remain, even when there's people dressed up in full uniform with helmets, batons, pepper sprays. They have a belt of skills. They train day in day out these people to to be physically strong. And when there's a big strong group of people running into you, it's very difficult to stay in that human chain. And
if Avik says people, he means the police.
Yeah, the police. Yeah. Sometimes they're not the same. Don't put that in. I said it's a joke. It's a joke. Please don't.
I'll say it not as a joke if you want.
Please do. I'm out here with my name. I don't need any more court cases. The police, whenever they would be running into these activists, and there was a French comrade who walked up to me and was like, for me, it was very different to stay in that human chain, in that lock-on, despite all these, people padded up with pepper sprays, batons running into us. And there are so many videos out there, the picture you talked about. This was actually one of our is a freelance journalist who does activism and is part of our organization to an extent. it was this person's photo that became viral, and this person actually even came up to and was like, my photo went viral and I'm not getting any money for it. But I'm like, at the same time, like, yeah, it's making us go viral. We are happy about it, but at the same time, this person is losing out on potential money. But yeah, the French comrades were like, I've never done this before, where there are people running in, and we stayed in that lock-on. It was very empowering for them. But that's one level of action. But there was also like spontaneous tripod actions where, because of the laws here in Germany and also because of the police training, not every police person is allowed to go above a certain height, which is 1.8 meters?
2.5.
2.5 meters. Anything above 2.5, they're not allowed to like enter an evict or like approach an activist. So I think there's a word for it which is called deliberate. The word slips me, but it's like where you endanger yourself deliberately. You put yourself in a precarious position so that you can hold on to that ground.
Yes.
And there were instances of police even not like we have footage of this where a police person was entering a structure which was above 2.5 meters. And if it went for the journalists on the ground, journalists who were also involved with the organization running in and telling them that they're doing something illegal, the police people would have kept doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I believe that 100%.
There's even more hilarious footage of like police pepper spraying themselves.
A classic of the genre. We love it.
Actually, you could check, probably you could check on YouTube by now, because there's been quite some hilarious mistakes or like fails of the police, of which one is pepper spraying themselves. Another one is having a huge like truck with a water cannon, but the wind was so strong that the water actually ended turning around in the air and just sprinkling on the policeman.
Beautiful.
And I think another one is a cherry picker, which is normally used to evict people from trees, because how will they get up there? They use a cherry picker. And then, which is like a platform that can go up. I don't know if everyone is aware of that, which is based on a truck. And then the truck got just stuck in the mud and they were not able to release it for hours. And everyone in the trees was just sitting there and watching as a comedy how the police was trying to get out of the mud with this whole truck.
Yeah, my understanding as someone who's very online, and that's the extent of my existence, the mud has been helping out quite a bit. Comrade Mud, I guess, in this situation. Which actually, I need to ask this, because this is a very stupid question, not to disrupt the very serious topic, but online there's been a huge debate as to whether to call the guy who pushed the cop down the mud wizard or the mud monk. And I'm wondering if you can settle this debate.
I think mud wizard sounds better.
Yeah, but I would go for Mud Monk actually, because also even
I've split the movement.
I don't know, it was the Franziskaner, like some kind of monks, I guess. They were not even distancing themselves. It was also something that went in the media, because people were actually discrediting what the monk did because it's violence against the police.
Oh, no.
Where at this point I really have to mention that what the hell are people looking at if this is the only evidence they find for activists being aggressive towards the police, while we have thousands of videos that were shot by activists and by journalists of the police being completely disproportionately violent against all activists. I'm begging all people to just look at this evidence and accept that the police was violent as hell, and that this is just one point where it gets visible how problematic the system of police is, because it's a way of being violent that especially marginalized people in society and racialized people in society experience every single day, or like every time they have contact with police, as a side note. However, I would really want people to see that this monk is a hilarious person that was just trying to put something on camera that is actually a quite serious topic.
Yeah, no, I've been like, yes, absolutely. I've been roughhoused by my siblings harder than that monk or wizard roughhoused that police officer, like, absolutely. Okay. Speaking of the whole police if they're following their training, which is a big if, can't endanger people. I was wondering if you could describe the tunnels, because I believe the tunnels are a similar tactic again.
Well, I guess the whole point of the tunnels was to hinder the eviction from taking place fast. Because it's just very difficult to evict people from a tunnel because people don't, like, the police doesn't know where the tunnel is. They can only estimate. They don't know where the people in the tunnel are, which is much more difficult than when people are in trees. And it's also very hard to evict them because you can basically not, it helps hindering the whole process of eviction because you cannot use heavy machinery above the tunnels to evict people from trees, for example. And we actually experienced that. Like, they stopped evicting our barrio, which is like some part of the village where people were living in a lot of tree houses, and they couldn't evict us because they couldn't bring the cherry pickers, as they were afraid that people built the tunnel underneath and the tunnel would fall, be destroyed.
Cave in.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. The caving in risk is that was the first way I heard the tunnels explained to me, that like you couldn't go after people in them because it could cave in, which is fair. But yeah, I didn't consider the whole you can't put equipment on top of the tunnels aspect of it. It's all very clever. Well done.
And it's actually really important because like the whole point was to get more time, to get more people being aware of the subject, and that's something they really mentioned. No, it's not about the tunnel. Like, they don't want to be heroes of tunnels, and I think they're partly displayed as such. It was great what they did, but the whole point of them doing it was to get even more attention to the whole subject of Lützerath and of climate justice in general. Yeah. And like all the other fights all in the world that are connected to climate justice, especially in the global south, where people have been fighting for tens of years, and like to give this whole subject more time. That's what was the purpose of them. It
was also to buy time. Keep in mind, the tunnels were right above like a treehouse structure, and these tree houses were connected with traverses. So what the police did was they sent in these special units, these SEK people, who would then climb up without cherry pickers, so they cannot keep up with the activists who are used to traveling in these traverses, and they can get around these trees before the SEK can even climb up these trees. And without a cherry picker, they're not fast enough. And there was a certain night where there were 2 to 3 activists stranded on like trees, and there was like winds of like 70 kilometers per hour.
Oh, geez. Okay.
And to see activists just hanging on to these trees as the tree is swinging in one direction, it wasn't safe for them. They're like 20, 30 meters high up in the air on a tree that's bending to wind. And keep in mind, it's also like around these trees, there were other tree house structures. Like there was trees around these trees, not just near this small forest, which had been cut down. So the wind speed was even higher. People were willing to endanger themselves just so that they can buy some time and get some exposure about Lützi. And the police they didn't care about the safety of these people. Like, they literally left 3 activists on trees high up there and telling them, oh, please come down now, otherwise you're going to die. And there was no SEK at that time. It was like 2:00 in the night, and there were, me and some other journalists on the ground just saw like these activists up there risking their lives. Somehow they managed to ended up getting traverse connected to their tree house and get to safety.
Good. So I think there's one thing I just want to ask, because you're mentioning journalists on the ground. How do you feel coverage of everything Lützerath has been in the media? Do you think it's been fair? Do you I've seen events like this before. I've seen things like Ende Gelände basically be ignored by wider media, or maybe Germany talks about it, but then it doesn't really go much further than that. This time feels a little bit different, but I don't know if that's just the kind of like bubble that I'm in. And I was wondering what your opinion on that was.
Yes, this time was definitely a lot more wide. I think the community here had like 2 years to prepare themselves. connect themselves with other movements in, for example, Rojava or movements in America. I mean, also like I sound like a broken recorder when I quote Chomsky, this manufacturing consent and the government's propaganda model.
Yeah.
But there's also like extensive coverage by other authors like Brian Glick or Eric McVeigh about how mainstream media is somewhat owned by the state and they do cater to the needs of the state.
Yeah.
There are also right-wing media out there who will literally paint us as terrorist activists and like people who are like, radical leftists, and like we're trying to overtake the climate movement. But at the end of the day, the climate movement is about colonization, which is capitalism, which is based on colonization.
Yeah.
And the people here in Lützi are aware of that. I think they talk about it very extensively, just because they're aware of how twisted the system is, like lobbyism, like this deal to keep the mining going for the next 7 years happened behind closed doors. There was no involvement of the whole Green Party as like the whole, I don't know the English word, I would say like cabinet.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know the German word, yeah. I guess the cabinet wasn't involved.
Yeah, and I think it was quite frustrating actually that we've seen how even leftist media was covering what happened, was covering the activists, was covering personal stories, but what they did not really cover and what they did not broadcast was the content that we actually wanted to make. And I think that is an issue in almost all the media landscape that we have so far, that they do not want to connect the fights that the subject that we actually have to connect, which is climate justice, connected to capitalism, connected to colonialization, and all the problems that arise from those topics. Like, obviously, we had here a police that was working according to what the government wanted them to do, which was protecting the profits of a big enterprise that is responsible for death in all over the world through the emissions they produce, and activists trying to fight against that and to stand against that with their bodies, and being completely demolished by a huge police that was there. And that this is like a huge, like this is connected to capitalism as such, was not really covered in the media. And that it also is connected to colonization, and the whole story that Germany has was also not really brought into media. And we really hope that now, as the attention is there, people will start asking themselves, reflecting on the subject, and see that there is a connection that you can just not deny.
Sorry, go on.
One thing to add would be the global warming is caused by capitalism. There's a direct correlation between these two. What else? I had something else to do, but no, sorry, go on.
That's fine. No, don't worry. I think our audience of the podcast would be 100% on board with that statement. I find it kind of interesting, this kind of media narrative, because a lot of things have been thrown at Lützerath and also kind of more of the smaller urban protests of like, blocking streets and things like that, like using the word eco-terrorist to describe someone who's standing in the way of traffic is always a bit I'm not sure how long that's going to work for the general public. It kind of just at face seems kind of ridiculous, at least. Kind of like,
have you seen there was a Berliner Morgen Post article from a week ago about this was just before the day of the demonstration. This was during like when eviction was in full go, and there was a action. There was like a bunch of activists, like 300 of them, who went out into the streets of Berlin, and then they spray painted the Apple Store, they spray painted Deutsche Bank, and then they spray painted another office, the Green Party office. They burned a bunch of because I guess they knew that the police were out here in Lützerath, and since these activists their schedules didn't permit them to come here, they decided to do some kind of action regarding Lützerath and to show their anger in some form.
Yeah.
Which was to go and spray paint Deutsche Bank with Lützi Lebt, and other slogans like that. I can send you the article if you're interested, and if you haven't come
absolutely.
across it.
Yeah. I think one of the other things that is being kind of weaponized with the narrative of Lützerath is also the energy crisis in Germany, despite the fact that plans for Lützerath have existed for years before like the energy crisis began, and also we've had like very boring academic reports, but still very accurate reports saying that like even if all the coal was burnt under Lützerath, that wouldn't help the energy crisis. It's not enough.
Yes, and also to add up on that, like it's not even solving any part of the energy crisis if we are burning this, like if we are distracting this coal now, because it cannot be burned until certain, like I think in 2 or 3 years, because there's still a lot of coal that has already been distracted. So there's no point at all to take this coal now and burn it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, I think that's important. I think a lot of media relies on people's ignorance of how any of this works. That like you just pick up the coal and pop it in the oven and you've got energy or something. That's how it works. God, there was a third point about Lützerath, but and also I think the very obvious kind of greenwashing. My understanding, and I might be wrong about this, is that like the whole deal with Lützerath and RWE or WE is that they were allowed go ahead with like this mine, the agreement they made with the Greens, and the Greens got out of that, bringing the date of 2038 to 2030, which defeats the purpose if we all just burn 15 years worth of coal in 7 years. Like it's not really. Yeah, it doesn't really work.
Help us. I think it just makes our demise quicker.
Yep.
Yeah, and probably lines the pockets of some rich people more.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think that's once you remove all those kind of like various points that you've made, and the like it won't help the energy crisis, and the 2030 date thing doesn't really help too much either. Then it becomes very obvious that it's about making one of Germany's biggest companies even bigger and richer. So
yes, but I wonder if everyone understands though. I'm sometimes really wondering if there are still people who believe that this 2030 deal actually has anything positive on it, because it has an effect to talk about years. It's just that we shouldn't talk about years. We should talk about a budget. And if we don't stay beneath what we can possibly burn, then we are pretty much fucked.
Yeah, the thing I keep thinking about in terms of dates as well is also like we can agree that Germany stops burning coal or like even all fossil fuels by 2030, but if we don't, like, they could easily just shift those energy requirements to another country. And then on paper, Germany is not doing anything, but Poland has a fuck ton of coal. So like if they just make a little deal on the side there, it's not really worth much. But,
exactly. Or having like all the coal replaced by gas is also not the solution.
Okay.
And I think that's something worth keeping in mind, that Ende is, for example, working like another activism group is in Germany, which is quite big, is working against gas now, because if it's just the gas is fracked in the US, or if there's a deal with Qatar for tens of years to get some other kind of energy, which is also just dirty and not a solution, then we're not doing any better.
No, last I heard of like the people from Ende, they're doing protests up in Hamburg for the new LNG ports that are being built there to get the American fracked gas. Fun. I love the tradition in Germany of we're getting cut off by one like very dodgy energy source. Let's replace it with an equally, if not dodgier, energy source.
I mean, at least it has less carbon emissions, but is it really the solution we need right now? Because there's a global crisis regarding climate change. Like George Carlin said, like it's not the planet that's fucked; it's we who are fucked, because the planet will just keep on existing.
Going. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we're just like a bad case of the sniffles.
Some amoebas will have a great time after we're gone.
Sorry, people keep walking into the press container.
Oh, that's all right. That's absolutely fine. Everyone's all smiles. That's good. But yeah, no, that's. Sorry, I got distracted. Yeah. The planet. Yeah, no, you're right. The planet will be like absolutely fine, and they can do without us, I guess. So it is about saving lives, and to that extent, like the LNG might be better in terms of carbon emissions, but then like I don't know, you have several households in the United States whose tap water is suddenly on fire, or like sinkholes and minor earthquakes and stuff occur in parts of America that are usually quite poor already. So it's not great. Right. Sorry. We got off on a little tangent there. One of the other things that I wanted to talk about before letting you guys go was international solidarity. Some of my co-hosts who unfortunately couldn't be here today have been paying attention to the fact that like the Zapatistas in the US have like done solidarity actions, and I was wondering if you can inform us of like the scope of that, who's been involved, who's been supportive, if you know.
Yeah, it's been actually crazy. Like we didn't even expect so much solidarity to happen, but there's an international solidarity video gonna go on social media. I think either tonight or tomorrow. You can check it out. Where we're trying to capture all the solidarity messages we got, and it's just impossible because there are too many.
Too many, way too many.
It's like it goes all the way from people which are quite close, like in Europe from Czechia or something, and it goes over protesters in Iran and the Zapatistas, as you already mentioned, in Mexico, and people from Uganda, people from like different countries in South America, I think also. There was even there was a press conference on Lützerath in Uganda, actually, which is just crazy. Just imagine that.
Yeah, I can't.
Yeah. So
neither could we a couple of days ago. I think it was like a 5-hour video, and we had to keep cutting voices or like putting them together so it could be like 2 minutes.
Right, fair enough.
No, 5 hours was an overstatement. That was definitely not true.
No, that's fair.
Probably 3 hours, something like 3 hours.
Let's say 2.5.
Yeah, okay.
Let's be in the middle here, yeah. That's fair. Actually, that's absolutely wonderful to hear, though, because, like, again, that is something that if I weren't paying attention to people who are there and on the ground, this is the kind of stuff I would not be hearing about, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, this is the point. Like, we can actually connect fights through that, and it's not us who can do that, but it's people doing that all the time by just showing solidarity, even though they have their own fights for tens of years, and they are doing it under a lot bigger risk and also a lot bigger pressure, because a lot of them are already affected much more than we are here in Germany by climate change and the climate crisis. But still, they're like taking their time, and then it is actually possible for us also to give more attention to their struggles, because for a lot of reasons that we've already talked about, which has a lot to do with power hierarchies and white privileges, that people are not paying the necessary attention to the fights that are and the struggles that are happening in so many other countries. And yeah, we just hope that people will take into account what is already happening and support those fights over there.
Great, yeah.
And all over the world.
All over the world. Over there being the most of the planet. Yeah.
Exactly.
We recently did an episode where we kind of like recapped all the stuff. We looked at all the lists that were recapping the events of 2022 and the amount of attention given to those massive floods in Pakistan versus other things that happened is upsetting in and of itself. So yeah, right. So we're approaching the end of our time. So once again, Sasha and Avik, thank you so much for coming on and talking to me. Is there anything that you want to mention before I let you go? What do you think is the most important thing for people to understand about what is happening out there and what it is they're doing?
for me, I personally can't wait for some expose coming out in a few years where we find out more about this shady deal that happened behind closed doors. It might become like a second Gazprom, except it's not outsourced.
Yeah, we can't attach the whole Russia is big and scary side to it. It's a German company that did it. Yeah. Sasha, sorry, anything?
I wouldn't end on that. I wouldn't end on that note. I would end on something more positive. Yeah.
And that is
okay, something more positive. Actually, I can give you some positive outcomes.
Excellent.
No, you don't have to. I can do it too.
Okay,
you
go
say
for
something
it.
and then maybe I can come up with something positive. But maybe you go first.
I can too, but I'd be making it up. So it's
No,
okay.
I'm thinking about it. You
Okay,
go
I think
first.
that this is a problem. I think it's way too negative.
No.
I'm going to start with something positive now because I think that's something that we kind of haven't covered. Like, it's super important that the focus is on the police violence that is happening, and hopefully also putting light on the racist system of the police and all the issues coming with that. However, we also want to stress the amount of people that have been there that actually like made it possible for this civil disobedience action to happen, where people ran towards Lützerath because there were 35,000 people on this demonstration, and thousands of them being willing to do civil disobedience, to go against the law, because they know that what is legal is not necessarily legitimate, and in this case it's definitely not. So we've seen people from all ages, from all different parts of society, coming and being in this place together, and I think we saw many people getting politicized over Lützerath. So if we manage to find ways that people can organize themselves further for climate struggle and against the capitalist system and against the police violence that is happening all along, then we can actually have a much more active climate justice movement within Germany and beyond. And I think that we got a lot of strength during this whole process. So Lützerath was always a concrete place where change was needed to happen, but it was also always more. It was like a place where people could structure themselves and get together. And I think that this strength will take it in further struggles.
Yeah, I mean, not so long ago, slavery was also legal. And there was, as Louis also said, like state apparatuses that would keep, this slavery in power. Like they would make sure that this was happening. And it's not the same right now. There is still lobbyism happening. There is still corruption in our state. And if people just open their eyes, they look around what's happening around them, see what kind of shady deals happen behind closed doors, what kind of there's a huge difference between Europe and the global South, and the difference keeps getting bigger and bigger because a very small part of the population have most of the wealth, not just in the global South, but it also in Europe or in the Western world.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. All right. And on...
I'm sorry, that's not positive. I'm getting just throwing things at me. It's like, that is not positive.
I was like, I'm in Europe. I'm rich, I guess. Yay!
I guess what is positive is how empowering it was to see thousands of people run towards the police. And despite police brutally assaulting these people, stop laughing. There's somebody laughing in the corner of the room. Brutally assaulting these. That ruined my dialogue. Thank you for that.
It's positive.
It is positive.
It's positive.
There's a third person who wants to be part of this interview. Do you want to be part of this interview? Yeah. So yeah, you can be if you want to. Do you have anything positive to say?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Yeah, this person doesn't have positive to say.
It's very easy to critique. It's very easy to critique. It's not easy to come up with something positive at the end of an interview.
True.
Yeah.
You hear that? Nothing. This person cannot keep up with this conversation. Yeah, I think it was very empowering to see people, even despite the police brutality, to keep going again and again. They made it past 2 police lines, and there was a third one with police dogs that attacked some of our activist friends. And these people still kept going, and they're still, as soon as they got out of Geza or jail, what could be jail, I guess, they got back into it. They're already back here in the camp and ready to get organized again.
Cool. All right. Now, with that said, I want to say thank you very much to Sasha and Avik of Lützerath Lebt. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for telling us about it. We will have any links to the description in the podcast for people who want to keep up with anything that you've mentioned or keep up what's going on the ground. And from Berlin, from a dumb guy who makes jokes on the internet, solidarity.
Cool. Thanks for being here. And yeah, let's spread the message.
Wow, what a great interview that we all just listened to. Who was experiencing this for the first time? This is how the sausage is made.
The magic of podcasting.
This is how the sausage is made.
Yeah. I don't like it.
I don't like seeing it.
No one.
I never want to eat a podcast again.
Exactly.
So check out the links in the description for what you can do with that and keep track of everything that's happening in Lützerath. Coal bad. That's
especially that one. Like,
it's
it's fucking useless.
It's fucking stupid coal.
Fucking stupid fight that they're having there.
Germany has discovered dumb coal.
Literally, it's like it's basically a pride thing at this stage. It's just like, no, we have the power to get this coal, so we're gonna get this coal.
My favorite conspiracy theory is it's due to kind of like the anti-Slavic believing that your Germans are superior to Poles. This is the only reason we're doing it, because if we didn't do this, we would have to depend on Polish coal. We can't have that.
We cannot have that. Yeah, no.
It'd be a very dumb reason for this to be happening.
But I wouldn't put it past them either. So
yeah, not that the reasons are good. Anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
That was another episode of Corner Späti. Thank you for listening. Make sure to catch us on patreon.com/Corner Späti for an extra episode a week. Anything else to shout out? Do you know a venue in Hamburg that will do a podcast that roughly seats about 50 to 70, maybe 100 people?
100?
We can. Hey.
Oh, wait.
I don't mean to toot our own horn. We're coming to Hamburg this summer, hopefully, but we need a venue. Tell us about a venue. Speaking of live shows, friends of the show, Trash Future, will be in Berlin. I'm going to shout them out because I helped them get the venue. Because I'll put a lot of very annoying email work into this. And you should come out and see that. And also, we'll probably all be there in some capacity, so you can say hi to us as well. Like, let's be real here. Come on. You knew this.
Yeah.
Theme song is by Melty Brains. I think they have a new album out. You should check it out. The theme song isn't off the new album. It's off a very old album. But still, the new album's good. I used to live in a big house with all of them. Anyway.
Cute.
Yeah, it was cute. And then the chimney on the wall caved in. It was
just Irish things.
Just Irish things. The rental market's fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah, we lived in. Okay.
Quickly before we wrap up.
We lived in this big, like, it used to be a country house, but like Dublin had sprawled so much that this is now like the suburbs of Dublin. And before we moved in, I believe it was a French crack den. Like a bunch of French people lived there and were just drugs all the time, and blaring music and stuff like that. So there was no heating. The shower didn't work. Eventually the wall with the chimney on it caved in. And there was French graffiti everywhere all over the house.
Oh my God.
But rent was $200 a month.
200?
Yeah, in Dublin.
That's
right?
insane. I mean, no wonder. Like,
it's like everyone who lived there, apart from me, was just like a struggling musician of some sort. So I would just come home from work, and there would just be like a bluesgrass band in the kitchen, and I was like, "Well, I'm just gonna make some pasta."
If you don't mind,
like a banjo plays. So I'm like, all right, let's go. So yeah. Bye.
Bye.
Ciao, ciao, everyone.